So this is Alok Ramsisaria. He's the CEO of Grazidi. Grazidi is the owner company in the hierarchy of Search Unify. Search Unify is actually our sponsor, but as the CEO of the parent company, Alok has to approve it. So Alok, thank you for sponsoring the ASP Best Support websites again this year. This isn't your first time. It's not the first time you sponsored something for us. And you guys are also sponsored our newsletter this year. So thank you for both. Your sponsorship helps give us financial stability and allows us to keep our dues to our members lower than they would be otherwise. So you might tell our friends a bit about you and your company.
Sure. Thanks, Al. You're too kind. I think we are very grateful that we have the opportunity to support the good work you're doing. And I think really, credit to you for running the organization for what, 26 years now?
Well, no, I've only run it for 11 because our founder, Jeff Tarter, ran it before me. I was a member then, but Jeff has been a long-term friend, but he had some health problems and needed to turn the reins over to somebody else.
No, but even then, 26 years in the support industry, and I think if you look at thought leaders who've shaped the industry more than anybody else, and the fact that they come here and contribute their time and expertise to help rank and all the effort that goes in to make this happen. I think our part is very small. So, but thank you very much. I think.
Well, I have noticed, I have noticed that not all AI companies are focused on self-service. Some are on assisted support, and all of that has to coexist. We need both assisted service and self-service. But the trends to me are pretty clear, moving more and more toward self-service. People prefer to go to Google with questions and problems first. A lot of them prefer to do it on their cell phone, and then they'll be happy to self-serve on your website. But the last thing that they really want to do is call for tech support. And well, it's still necessary, but I appreciate the fact that your company does more than a lot of companies to assist in self-service, as well as assisted support.
Right. I think what we have seen is that there is a mix of direct support, which means that, for example, you want a password reset. No amount of self-service will help that if your software doesn't support it. Right. Yep. So you go and talk to an agent. So there are places where you should go directly to support. So you should not put in barriers, but there are lots of places where self-service is important, not just to get your question answered, but sometimes it's important to get your customers to think the right way about what they're doing, guide them through the process. So we see a lot of variation, and I think the other interesting thing is that with this and voice, while we see that coming down, especially for B2B SaaS companies, but B2C continues to see a lot of voice traction, and some of the older software companies do have customers who expect to pick up the phone and call and say, I'm stuck, what should I do? So we see some amount of movement on voice chatbots, or providing more agent support for making sure that the voice agent is more productive. And we'll be building more tools and technology in that area. We have not done so far. We've stayed on the agent and the self-service side, and also with trying to solve the problem that, hey, every piece contributes to the overall knowledge in the system. So for example, if a customer found answers using some articles and an agent found articles, then that same article should be visible to on the self-serve side. So there's learning that needs to flow in both directions. I think the other part that we have seen, with Gen AI coming up, is that people expect that to be panacea for all ills, and it is not. Right? I've seen customer after customer coming to us and saying, "Hey, I have a ChatGPT 4 license. Why do I need anything else? And then can you give me an engineer or 2 engineers for 1 year?" And I say, "Okay, we'll build you what you want, but then who'll maintain it? It is going to keep on top of what the next big thing is." And people forget that large language models are exactly what they are, large language models. They're great at doing some amount of inferencing, but not really great at answering technical questions which should be run on top of your knowledge base. And then in the other part that we've seen opening up even more, and I think this happened because of the amount of churn we saw in the Great Resignation, but also otherwise, is that knowledge creation is actually as big. So as we solve the findability problem, we find that there are huge content holes, and people need help in bridging those content gaps. So our focus is to highlight those content gaps, both in a visual manner as well as allow what I think the consortium talks about is in the KCS V6 standard is to allow everyone to be a knowledge creator. So allow in the moment knowledge creation, and we've seen some amazing results there. But enough of a plug. At GRIZZY, we are about 1,200 strong offices across the globe. But as I mentioned in the beginning, we're just thrilled that support the efforts that Al and ASP and all our very distinguished judges have done. And like I said, it's just our privilege that we get to, write a small check. So.
Well, I have noticed that you publish a lot of information about like large language models, and I've had white papers that are available and on-demand webinars listed in our newsletter the last couple of months. For those that want to get more educated about that, you're very good about sharing information, and so we've tried to put that out to our members and subscribers. So anyway, we need to get on with the show. So Alok, would you do the honors of introducing our first guests?
Oh, definitely. It's a privilege. It's a privilege twice over. Because it's talking about a customer of mine and something that we built. And B, it's a friend of mine who I've had the privilege of knowing for a long time now, after Patricia first introduced us at TSIA. So it's my pleasure and privilege to introduce Phil Verghese. Phil is the CEO and co-founder at Clever Insight. Phil, if you know Phil, you know that you have to be on your best game to understand all that Phil puts out in one sentence. Right?
It's just the accent, Alok. It's just the accent.
Well, you can't play that game. I have the same accent. And from the very distinguished team at Automation Anywhere, I'd love to welcome Brian Galloway, Senior Manager of Support Operations, with over 10 years of driving innovation and technical support and leading high performance teams. He's way younger than he looks. It's just that he lets his beard flow straight. And Sahana, Senior Manager Self-Service at Automation Anywhere, who started her KCS journey almost a decade ago, based in Bangalore. And she has led the worldwide support team to establish both solve and evolve loop practices as part of the case solving process. She works with her team to refine the processes to leverage and establish solve loop practices to enhance customers' digital support experience. So over to you, Phil, and the Automation Anywhere team.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen at some point when I find out. So again, for the second year in a row, I'm in a hotel room, not the same hotel room, but presenting. So if there are any hiccups or problems, I'm going to use that as my excuse. So what I'm going to do is to share my content, and that should be this one. Hopefully that's not my username password, but all the stuff that you should see. Can you see the ASP site?
Yes.
Perfect. So the plan is for about 45 minutes and less if you guys get bored. And you can let us know in the chat if you get bored with my talking. I'm just going to walk through kind of the that the ASP has used for a while and revised over the years to judge a site. I'm going to log in with a password with a password into their site. That'll give you some access. I'll sort of think out loud and speak out loud as I go through some of the things we look for. And then I think Brian and Sahana will be put on the spot without any notice. And we'll ask some questions to get their insights into kind of what they thought and what they think as they went through this process. Does that sound like a reasonable use of time? And that's just a trick because I have no clue what people are saying or doing. So all I can see is the screen. Okay. So what I first wanted to do is just quickly go into the ASP site, and under the awards, one thing that's really good to do, if you haven't yet seen, is to go to the very public criteria that's used for the site itself. So I'm just going to scroll quickly through this and spend just a couple of minutes. I apologize to all the other judges who are planning to fill in the time talking about this. I've you're now screwed. But anyway, so basically the idea is there's the way it's scored is one section is around the site user experience based on our impressions. How is it organized? Are the number two there is, are the menus, pathways, breadcrumbs logical? What's the impression of the site's dynamic presentation? How easily can you get into different spots? That's basically what the entry points are. That's one section we score. And then in here, there's all, again, this is all the publicly available examples of what's used. The next section is really the content itself. Do they have different types of content? Do they have it in different formats, video, PDF, HTML, wikis, etc.? If appropriate, do they have it in multiple languages or not? And how translatable is it? Is it accessible for people with disabilities? The next section, really, which is about 20%, is around content engagement and interaction. So what we are asked to do is to go and poke around. So we try looking for review KB articles. We'll go to the publicly available KB. Again, often it's password protected, but what a customer would be able to see or a partner can see. We'll search for a KB article, and then we'll go out on Google after logging out and search for it again and see what Google a Google search would show. So the idea is most people, again, don't typically use your company's portal to search. They will often just go off to Google and search. So those are just an example of how we dig into it. How easily can things be escalated? Can you go and schedule a chat, talk to people? And, obviously cross-platform, how responsive is it and things like that. Another key one is search. Can you search easily? Does the results come back as good? And then the last one is actually in some ways for me personally the most interesting, which is it's an optional essay where, and I believe it is optional, but people are asked to write down information that helps us understand the strategy behind the site. So
yeah, it is optional, Phil. So for many years we required an essay, and because some people they just didn't like that word. They remembered from school that essay questions were not nearly as good as just click on this, choose which one of the 5 you wanted. So we have an online form for those that would prefer to do the online form, and those that want to do the essay can. The judges, however, since most of the judges have been with us for some time, most of the judges still prefer the essay.
Yeah, I'm one of those people who's been around a long, long time, even as a judge. And I will tell you that that's one of my most fun parts because I go through the criteria, I go through the site, I do the tests that I've written out. Then I look at the essay, then I go through it again and then extrapolate if I can see what the essay claims they do. And then I do it a third time. So usually I run this 3 times to see what, to come up with a score. And I will tell you that this really helps me understand and learn. So it's not, this is the part of judges. It's not like we know it all. Sites and the essay. So I would encourage you to enter one in. Maybe I'm one of the old school judges, but they'll be worth it. So I hope that gave you some context as to how this is done. Al or Paul, I hope you'll just, or Sahana, Brian, any of you, if you see questions in here, just feel free to interrupt me while I go in. Okay, so I'm assuming there's none yet. So I'm going to go in now to the next screen. So that's the essay itself. So the first thing I would do would be to go to the site. All right, so like I said, this part is me live, non-scripted, just walking through a very, very casual way of how I would look at a site, kind of in guidance, in alignment with what I just read out in terms of criteria. So I look at the site, I see over here they have products, they have solutions, they have resources, and there's information on people support and customer success beyond RPA. That's what their tool does, and then more about the company itself. So then I'll scroll down, and on the left-hand side, I see quite early this community and support. That's pretty good. So I'll go click in there, see what happens. So I come up with a screen that shows me A+ customer success, support, bots store, community edition, developers, partners. Keep scrolling down, Pathfinder, and more information. All right. So now I would go back. It's not clear that I went down somewhere, so I'm just going to go back. Again, don't take any of this as a complaint or a critique. It's just my off-the-cuff thoughts of how I would look at a site. So I'm going to scroll down again and see if I can see anywhere in the permanent menu information about support. Pop down, pop down, pop down. And I see here at the bottom information about support and support login. So for the purposes of this, I'm going to support and support login. So typically, this would be feedback I would put in almost immediately saying support is at the bottom right corner. And maybe you should look and make sure and see who is coming into your site and for what. Are they coming to the main site and then going to support? Then maybe you should make a case to make support more prominent. So that's an example of a comment I would put in after going through just that first page. You can see the username password, which you don't have, but I have already. And that's the password that many sites will give judges that allows us to get in a little bit more. So it tells me that I'm test customer with ASP. There's a community, learn, connect, and transform. Pretty good. There's documentation information. That's pretty good. Bot store. There's training and then the portal. All right. So again, for the purposes of this, I'm going to pop into the portal. Let's see what comes up. So it gives me the option to search. That's great because often I may not want to or have the time to go down through everything else. If I go down here, I just see the breadcrumbs of I'm in my workspace. And the first thing is case support and case management. I'm gold. That's fantastic. Thank you, Automation Anywhere. And this is actually pretty cool. And not many sites do this. That gives me the choice as to where I am. I actually happen to be East Coast. And so I'm just going to change that up. Let's see what the languages they support are. 3 for the support site. If I don't know if you noticed, but there's more sites, more languages available, but this makes sense. So they've got 3. And if you do need to connect, how do you want to do it? Is it through Zoom, which is their preferred one, or are you or me as a customer going to provide mine? So you can see here already that's pretty cool, right? They're actually thinking about me. They're not trying to wake me up in the middle of the night. They're trying to ask me what language, if I can do it in one of 3 options, and then tells me what tool. All these things add friction every single time if it's not done ahead of time. So hats off to Automation Anywhere for that little touch. Next thing you can do is create a case, open chat, call. It gives me the history of all the open cases, closed cases, and cases I presume I've been copied on. So I'm just going to click on it. Again, this is test and just the judges. So I've I'm going this for a second. So again, that's just the next pass I would look around, just poke around a little bit, see if something interesting is there or not. I'm going to go in here and I see something that again, I don't often see in sites, and that's account and user management. So let me pop into that and see what the heck this is about. Aha! This actually gives me something interesting. While I don't know Purvika, because obviously she's part of Automation Anywhere, this shows me the potential of something that is actually pretty cool, which is if you're a smaller company, you probably know who the members in your team are and the members of the client, in this case, Automation Anywhere. But it's quite possible that you do not know who else from your company is actually interacting with them because maybe global folks, right? So I can actually quickly see and understand who's here and what they're doing. And I can go in and do different things with them, right? See who's active and who's not. So this is actually, again, a very nice little test. Let's see if I can add a user and how easy it is. Name, nickname, phone, permission. That's pretty cool. Again, you can think about it if you got a company with subsidiaries or different groups that have to be firewalled off, how nice this is. And then you can tell me if it's administrative, contact, business, technical. That's pretty cool. So again, hats off to Automation Anywhere for that little piece in there that allows me power over who can see what inside. So going back to the left-hand side, I can see what I'm subscribed to. So I'm spending a little bit more time in here because this is actually pretty well done in my opinion. And not many people have it in such a centralized way. So that's why, again, I've got the mic. So I'm just going to go through what sounds interesting to me. So these are just articles that me or my team have put in here. Feedback, resources. OK, now let me go back in and see if I want to look for the knowledge base, because that's one of the other key things I'm going to be looking at. So on the left-hand side, support and case, nothing obvious there. But maybe it's under support and case management. Let me have a quick look. And open chat call. So it's not obvious from the way that I am looking, but again, I'm a dummy and I can see fairly quickly that there is knowledge base also available on the top on the menu that's sort of static. So again, hats off. Every person may go down a path you don't actually plan. I'm sure poor Brian Sahana saying, oh my God, that's another idiot use case we didn't take care of, which is me. But at least I can always come back in this case, the knowledge base. So a lot of us know that this is one of the key things that we're all looking at is how you capture, structure, and reuse content. So this pops me into migration data category. Little confusing, but to be fair, it's quite possible that based on my settings, remember, I'm coming in blind, but they've created an account for me. And given the sophistication of the site overall, I'm fairly certain that this is personalized in some way. So in my scoring, I'll make a note that says, I might have been confused, but I'm pretty sure that you have this under control. And that won't penalize them in the scoring, but it also gives them a little nudge in the unlikely case they didn't think of that, right? When they're going through the essay itself down the road. So that's kind of how I would think about it. And I'll just pop into an article and just have a look and see again how fast it loads, what it looks like. So it's still coming up, and it says on the left-hand side, gives me the date. It has the article number itself. That's my mouse. OK, the title, the summary. Then it gives me instructions, pretty clear, stepwise. So this is a pretty good, almost certainly they're following KCS principles, and that's fantastic. So one thing I would do normally, and I won't do now just for time, is I would actually search. I would log out and come back and search on Automation Anywhere, control room upgrade, and see what comes up. And it's an important from the user experience point of view, which is what we're really looking for. And sometimes it'll come up cleanly, sometimes it drops you out into a public spot. I'm not saying that's the case for automation anywhere. I actually don't remember, but that's the kind of thing we'd be looking for. Again, just really going down into the weeds like a user or a partner to see if we get confused or not. Then sometimes I'll also go in, actually almost always, and I might take this instruction and do another search on this one, the very first one. So automation anywhere on Google, automation anywhere, no schedule bot deployment is running, and see if it comes up with this document or other documents with it. Does it make sense? And in this case, the search is actually pretty slick and pretty good. I see they have feedback. Now we know that historically, maybe 1 or 2% of people will ever click on it, including support people. But it's good, again, to have yet another way, in addition to the other analytics, to find what another way to get feedback. So that's, again, just as a high level, the kinds of things that I would look for and what I liked already. One piece I will just restate is that I think this My Workspace idea is really good. It's personalized content. And again, I see here it's premium customers. So I'm presuming because I'm gold, I'm special. And it'll be probably a good upsell opportunity because this actually saves me a lot of time. In one screen, I can find out my licenses, give feedback, find blogs and videos. Again, presumably these are all tailored to what I have access to or I should have access to, or things that are immediately adjacent, i.e. upsell opportunities, right? So that's pretty good. Now, again, the breadcrumb I'm looking for is, do I have to go back? I can't go back, so it's opened up a new page. But thankfully, they've got the breadcrumb in here that allows me to go back to my workspace. So this is a really important piece, right? You need to have good search. You need to have good breadcrumbs and a way to get back when judges who are in a different time zone, sitting in a hotel room, doing a live unscripted presentation won't get lost, right? And they've actually succeeded in that. So it's fantastic. So my point is, I think this My Workspace is really good because I can see lots of things in one spot, including, like I said, these things like this account and user management, which is pretty cool. Most of the rest of it is pretty standard, and I'd expect that from a good to a very good site. I'll quickly go to Pathfinder Community and give my thoughts because, as we know, particularly depending on the type of product you have, if you have a product or a service where people can take your product and do things you don't know, they can use it in ways that you don't know, perhaps even better than you, then a community is really important. So again, I'm just going to scroll down for a moment or so and see how their community is. So they've got information on the left-hand side. They've got information about packages coming in. And there's ways for me to go in and filter by product on the right-hand side. I can also go in and collaborate. So there's a developer forum, etc. Again, for the purposes of where I am, I'm going to stop. I want to check in. So one thing that surprises me, again, live, a few months after having done this, is that it's asking me to log in again. So again, this will be something that in my judging, I would go ask them. The experience seems a bit different. It's not consistent with the support pages. This looks like a completely distinct site and seems to be even more clear when you have to log in again. Was that intentional? If not, what's the plan that you have? So that if you do your own improvements, you may want to think about aligning it from one judge's perspective. Does that make sense so far? I'm just looking through my notes to see if there's anything else I wanted to really point out. Not really, but in general, it's really easy to navigate. It's easy to move around. One thing I didn't see in my notes, and I see from my notes that I didn't see the first time, was, let me just go back into here, into the search results. Let me go into, if I wanted to create a case, I think it wasn't as clear how to escalate. So if I was in the middle of a document, for example, if my memory serves me right, it wasn't obvious how I could get help either from chat or live help as needed. So I'm going to do that test. And again, just a heads up, this is not meant to be a bash. This is just how the kinds of things I look for, and also at least part of the criteria that we look at. So I see the document. It's pretty well written. It's obviously non-trivial things. So it's got screenshots that are nice. It tells you step by step what to do. And then if I go down to the bottom, again, not instantly obvious how to escalate to support. And again, apologies to Brian and Sahana, probably saying, hey, goof, here's how you do it. All right. So with that, let me pause for a second and ask if there's any comments or questions on kind of my take on how this is, how I judge the site. And then I'm going to move on to asking Brian and Sahana's some questions they don't know they're going to be asked. So, Paul or Al, did we have any questions in chat?
I don't see any in the Q&A. Let me check the.
Yeah, actually, I see one asking how they manage licenses.
Yeah,
Okay.
so each of like I guess it kind of depends on which side you're talking about. Like user licenses are managed. We do have some like limitations per account and their support tier, and then their actual like product licenses allows them to like view their product licenses, and there's an integration with our software that manages the product licenses.
Yeah, that's what they were clarifying. Yeah, it's product licenses question.
You know, Phil, what we didn't do yet is actually ask Brian to explain a little bit about, not everybody knows Automation Anywhere. Brian, would
That's
you?
exactly where I was going next, is now that we have done a reverse view of, without having a clue who you are, just going in and randomly, arbitrarily poking away at your site.
Didn't let him
Let's hear a little bit about who you are. I'd also love to know kind of what you were trying to solve for. And I have one or two more questions in the few minutes we have left. So let's start with, who the heck are you guys and what do you do?
Yeah, so Automation Anywhere is an RPA automation company, so robotic process automations. It's kind of traditionally been repetitive tasks to help kind of free up workers from doing kind of mundane, repetitive work, moving data from system to system, to let them really focus on more kind of creative, valuable work. We've also, taken a big leap with all of the move forward in generative AI to help bring that in. There's a lot of power there to make it even easier for automations to be created and be effective with the capabilities of generative AI. So that's kind of the direction that we're moving as a company. A lot of our focus, once companies start doing automations, they might have a few big projects where they know that they have a lot of repetition that they want to address. And then after that, it's a lot of enabling the citizen development community, which is, anybody that's not a developer that may have some task in their role or their team that they want to be able to automate, to make sure that, it's accessible to those users, and they can go in and automate those things. So I think that'll really help transform that, as generative AI can help from a scripting side of things, as well as just help them with building the bots in our product and kind of working through that workflow.
Brian, as I recall, you're a lot bigger company than I thought. You're in all kinds of places.
Yeah, I mean, we have a global customer base, lots of different industries: financial, healthcare, manufacturing, energy. We're kind of across the board there, and that's part of some of the things we've been working on, especially in our website. This year we're trying to tackle additional languages and things like that, as we see more and more customers in non-English speaking regions, and want to make sure that we can support them directly in what they're looking to do.
Okay,
So
thank you.
that leads to another question. Again, either of you, how do you actually go about figuring out what to improve? Right. So you've done this before. You've obviously spent a lot of time and effort building out a site for a vast array of customers with very different needs, right? Some of the examples you gave are very different. So just walk us through how you come up with a site and how you think about what to improve and how you prioritize it.
Did you want to take this one, Sana, or do you want me to talk about what we've
Yeah, sure.
done last year? I know we've done like lots of
So,
different things, but
so we did a lot of industry standard research on the existing sites, go through a lot of blogs and different websites from the big tech companies to see how they are generally utilized and how the services are provided to the customers. Secondly, we also work closely with the support and the accounts team who are constantly in touch with the customers. So they kind of tell us the requirements of the customer, and in their perspective what are the things they struggle with on a day-to-day basis. One of the examples was the accounts team. So let's say you are in some kind of an issue where you want to renew something and you don't know whom to reach out to, and you may not know who the accounts person is. So it kind of helps, especially in large organizations, to kind of not have to struggle to figure out who it is, and then you just send an email to that person and they will be able to help you. Another example is we found customers. So we have different levels of access. There is administrator and there is a person who might not have case creation privileges, but just the privileges to go through your knowledge base. So if they want to create a case, they don't have the license or the ability to create the case. So for those users, we show them these are the administrators in your company who already have the privilege to create a case. Either ask them to give you the case creation privileges or have them create a case. So their names are also displayed. So that way we have tried to remove the friction between the information that they most commonly need and try to get that in a single place. The idea of Workspace was to give a platform for customers to get all the information in a single page, but we didn't want to clutter it too much because we wanted to give them the choice of selecting what they wanted and then go deeper into it. So based on your selection, it gives you the trainings that are available to you, the events and webinars that are happening. So that way the customers can just register. And obviously we have this huge list of content databases which we have put together using Search Unify and which has helped us improve the search. So that is where we have put a lot of effort on the content findability and the quality of the content. We constantly try and see whenever through KCS, we try and address the feedbacks that we get. We try and find out the content gaps, the failed search query analysis, and trying to get those gaps through cases from the content perspective. Whatever we can find through cases is also being addressed on a regular basis.
So Sahana,
Excellent.
let me ask you a
Yeah.
question I may not like the answer to. How
Okay.
useful, we give a site report for everyone that enters the ASP best support websites. How
Right.
useful has that been for helping you decide what things you want to improve?
Yeah, actually we have
It's okay to be
benefited a lot. No, actually we have benefited a lot from the comments because it kind of gives you a different perspective from the judges' uh, way of testing or looking at the site, because we are quite used to where the website options are and what's where, so we can easily navigate to it. But as a no voice, if somebody is struggling, then we kind of get their point of view, and that has really helped. One small feedback I have is some of the comments, we don't know which aspect they are referring to. So sometimes I kind of struggle to find, this comment is with respect to which part of the website, right? So I think a more descriptive comment with respect to what specific aspect that you are commenting on would be more useful. It already has helped us design our phase 4 and phase 5 changes that we are bringing up in the coming months.
Yeah, and I think, using this opportunity, I know we're kind of starting, but being able to sit through these and view other winners' websites, as well as, looking at the best practices report will kind of help us fill out, roadmap items, through the next year that we want to do for improvements. Because this last year has kind of been our own research, but knowing that we were going to submit, so your judging criteria was kind of a big driver for a lot of improvements for this last year, and using this feedback and what we see today and tomorrow will help us kind of add more things in the plan for next year.
And just wrapping up my piece of this. So I was one of the judges, and I probably did a random copy paste, which is why I didn't know what it referred. No, just kidding. I think all of us spent a fair amount of time, but it's great feedback to make sure that we try and be more specific. It's absolutely, that's something we should do for you. Thank you for being open. Thank you for applying, because honestly, each site we look at as judges really helps me get better at what I do and the clients I work with. Being open to being publicly analyzed and saying, yeah, bring it on. Fantastic. So thanks to you guys. And I appreciate your attitude and working with you guys, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, over to Al, and I will have to head back to the other conference I'm at. So I will sit for a bit and then head out.
Time sharing, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, I better turn my camera back on if I'm going to be on with you guys. So we have a little time for questions. If anyone has a question, you can either put it, in Q&A or put it in the chat. I think the chat might be a little easier, but I don't care either way. Either Paul or I will queue it up for you. So let's, and Arnfinn, you're a little early yet. Oh, your camera's on, there you go. Don't want to shove Brian out of the way. So anyone have a question, now is your chance, or you're going to miss it. And they'll be off and we'll be on to the next site.
And I'm here as well until I get kicked off. So, yeah.
Paul, do you see anything that I'm missing?
I have one question then I'll ask, and that is actually one that just came up. So when I was walking through the site live with you folks, I just mentioned how it wasn't clear how to get to support's website, right? At a poke around and then get to the bottom right. And the two in between were not quite the same, not obviously the same. Let's assume you folks said, hey, this is actually pretty important to put front and center of the website. Do you have the clout if you could show the data that said, hey, 80% of the people who come to the website go for whatever marketing stuff and 20% come for support, or why it's one of the highest trafficked areas? Can you go back in and sort of pound your fist on the table and say, hey, using data, because you guys are data driven, we want to have support front and center? Can you do that? Is that kind of the part of the culture, or how would you do it? You're on
Brian,
mute.
you're on mute.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do work closely with our overall web team. I know there is some stuff at the top, but not directly to the login. I mean, there's like a login, like a little account person that would bring you into that same kind of menu option that you got once you signed in, that would take you over to support. But yeah, it's not really clear because it's just icons. It's not in any of the text menus. So I mean, it's good feedback. It's good feedback to bring up to our team that manages like our base site, and try to see if we can make it more clear, use some of the space in those bars to make sure that there's a direct way for you guys, for our customers to get right into it.
For the clueless people who come in once in a while, right?
Yeah.
Because not everybody is there all the time. We shouldn't be there all the time. Certainly not for support questions, right? Maybe for knowledge of community and other things, yes. And I know at least one company, I'm pretty sure it was Cisco at one point actually did that. They were able to prove that support should be up in front, and they got much more prominent on their main page. That's pretty powerful. That shows power of data and usage, right?
So we have another question. Dave Feasey, who I think is with Ruckus Networks, if I recall correctly. Hi, Dave. His question is, how important is KCS in designing the site?
So I mean, I would say KCS is really important to us currently. I mean, Sahana has done a lot of work on KCS side of things and making sure that that flows. I know from, I'll speak a little bit and I'll let her kind of answer just in general KCS, but KCS right now in the current environment where so much is relying on the knowledge base, right? To be able to, help customers, be a source for, AI and things like that. You have to have that kind of investment in KCS and make sure things are clean and that, all of those gaps are covered like Alok was talking about. And, we spent, some time, but I think, the processes that were put in place and the things that Sahana's been driving, week over week with our team to, keep a good source made it a lot easier for us to, work through some of our AI implementations that we've been working on. But
in fact, one thing I noticed in your essay, which I'm glad Mary Beth and Krupa both like the fact that essays are important as judges, is that you use time to publish as one of the measures you look at, right?
Right.
So
Yes.
I think that in the knowledge world, time to publish is highly underrated. But as a manager, it really should be, look, what we know, make available on our website and other sources, right? As quickly. And then
Right.
if it's not there, how many minutes does it take for the first person who can find it to publish it? That's really the manager's job, to smash all the cultural issues and the technical issues and the process issues and all the muckety muck we throw in the way of people doing their jobs. So I love that. And that's just to answer the question, I think, from another side. I noticed that. And the other judges also noticed you guys are using it. The flag to watch for on the other side is it seemed like, again, from the essay, an over-reliance on deflection. And again, biases, deflection is not the greatest word or the greatest use, but it has its place. But I would say it's just a place and a fairly minor one in my personal biased opinion. But okay. Did that answer the question, by the way? Al's on mute and a thumbs up, I think. Time to publish. Oh, yep, Al, on input, critical factor for self-drive service success. Perfect.
Al, you're on mute.
Okay, now can you hear me?
yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
I want to congratulate you one more time. You haven't been in this activity before. I mean, this particular competition. And it is, at least up until recently, it has been unusual for a company to come in and actually win in their first year. Many companies take 2, 3, 5 years before they win an award. We had 2 this year, you and Smarsh, who will be the last presenter tomorrow. That's no small feat. I'm also on the judges panel that awarded things over at SX Live, and I noticed you guys were in there as well. So you've been busy, obviously, but busy isn't always effective. In your case, you obviously have been busy on the right things, because you scored well in a year when there were a lot of high scorers. So there was plenty of competition, and not everybody won. So, my hat's off to you. You deserve the respect that the award brings. You deserve the bragging rights, and hoist some bubbly with your team on my behalf, if you would. I know you didn't do that by yourselves.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the teams that did all the really hard work don't get to see the glory, but your teams obviously deserve the credit and the
And you
congratulations.
can see the comment from Amy as well in chat saying, can I say your UI is gorgeous, very nice work. And you got a couple of heart emojis. The only So Al's the nice guy. I'm the bad cop. I'll say fantastic job, truly. Bad cop is next year. I want to see a lot more improvements because
Yeah.
there are things you
Yeah,
can
we are on
do.
it.
Yeah, exactly. I expect it, and so the bar is even higher because you won. So that's all I'm telling you. If I get you again, watch out. So that's
Well, I will say this. The fact that you have won an award doesn't give you any advantage with the judges next year. In fact, if you do, the judges are really randomly assigned. So Phil doesn't know if he'll be assigned or not. I don't know if he'll be assigned or not. But occasionally judges will see the same site 2 years in a row, and they're almost always a little tougher the second year if they're looking at the same site. The new judges that haven't seen your site before won't have the same bias, so to speak. But
you can see
I think
Sahana typing direct messages to Al. Please, no more Phil.
Oh, you found out about that, huh? Just kidding. Anyway,
Yeah, I've got to.
Phil, you've been doing
Thank
this a long time. We appreciate you as well. In fact, I will say this. Thank you to all of the 5 judges, because there were 4 other ones that judge your site, but also, we have a lot more than that. I don't remember what we had this year, maybe 30. They're listed on our website, by the way, so you can see who all the judges were. We don't explain which judges were assigned to what site, and typically the judges may not interact directly with the company, though they can, and the company can interact directly with them, but oftentimes you don't know who judged your site and you may never find out. Well, that's okay. They are purposely independent and purposely diverse. Not all judges have the same background. I like to have diversity in the judges. And in fact, we are discussing whether we want to have some people that, unlike Phil, are not sophisticated in their understanding of support also to judge. So to more clearly, even though Phil, poor mouth that he was just a dumb guy wandering through, he really isn't. He's what I would call a support sophisticate. So we are debating right now whether next year we'll have some true dumb users represented as judges, not that they would be dumb intellectually, but they would be maybe not sophisticated in support, looking at different things. They wouldn't have the same score sheet because that score sheet is designed for the kind of support sophisticates that we have now for judges that in many cases have been with us 1 or 2 decades and have been in the industry for typically a decade or longer. So we'll see what happens with that. But in any case, judges deserve the credit for all the work.
And I just want to say one thing. You reminded me to say one thing, which was, again, thank you to the other judges. I have your comments for Automation Anywhere specifically. I know we all have judged multiple sites this year and every year, but your comments helped me a lot, and thanks a lot for that. So it's on your behalf that I'm doing this show.
Okay, so that's it for this company and this site. If you all would mute and take down your cameras,